All right. The booth says we're ready. Welcome, everybody. It is good to see you. Glad you could be with us for our August 3rd Primetime Bible Study. Everybody in the room doing okay? Anybody in the chat?
Yes.
Yep. All right. Greetings, everybody. Well, we started something last week looking at the sufferings of Job. You recall that?
Yeah.
What do we know so far? We went through 2 chapters and we saw that there was a conversation in heaven between Satan and God about this man Job, who was a good guy. He never really did anything wrong. He just upright and righteous man, and he turned away from evil. And Satan blamed him, Job, for being an evil guy. And the only reason he's being nice is to get on God's good side to get stuff. So God gave permission to Satan to deal with him in such a way that he would lose his stuff. Job kept honoring God, and it didn't slow him down at all spiritually. And they came back into the council room of God, and Satan said, well, of course he's going to stay, honoring you because you didn't hurt him. You touch his body and he'll curse you to your face. So Job was struck with boils from the top of his head to the bottom of his feet. And he was in agony. And then his wife even said, curse God and die, like a euthanasia. And he was like, no, that's not you, honey. You don't really mean that. No, we have to accept adversity from God. If we're going to accept good, we got to accept adversity too. And then he sat down and was in agony, and 3 friends showed up. And the 3 friends showed up, and they, out of respect, sat with him quietly for 7 days. And then we pick up the story. We're going to look at the sufferings of Job, part 2. I forgot to update the thing. I was going to call it twisting the knife. Sometimes friends can try to help you understand things, and they really just insult you without even intending to. That happens here. Now I want to take you to Genesis 18:25 for a minute. This is when Abraham and God were having a debate or a discussion what to do with Sodom, the city where his nephew, Abraham's nephew Lot, lived in Sodom. And the Lord said, I'm gonna bring that place down to the ground because it's so wicked. And Abraham stepped up and started to bargain with God. And what if there's so many people that are good? Are you going to throw away the good with the bad? And they bargained him down little by little to 10 people. And God said, if there's 10 people, then I won't destroy the city. I'll let it live on account of the 10 who dwell in it that are my people. Now, when Abraham was arguing with God about that, Abraham said this to God. He said, far be it from you to do such a thing, to put the righteous to death with the wicked, so that the righteous fare as the wicked. Far be it from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth do what is just? And that's the essence of the book of Job. Is God doing something just? When God brought Job up to Satan to show that there is a righteous man, the accuser went to work. That's what the word Satan means, is the accuser. He went to work on accusing Job. And of course, we went through that in 2 chapters and we saw what happened, and it seemed very unfair. And Job was miserable, and he had always been a decent guy. So you wonder, is God being unjust? Going through this book, the book of Job, we kind of learn that God really is just, even at times it doesn't seem so. And so we're going to cover 5 chapters tonight. And I'm going to cut out a lot because it's a lot of material. And this is a a lot of poetry. I'm going to try and cut out a lot of the poetry to get to the essence of what is being talked about. So Job 3 through 7. We start with chapter 3, where Job, he speaks. So they've been sitting quiet for 7 days, and Job's been suffering the whole time, and his friends have just been there for him, not saying anything, just empathizing with their friend. So at last Job spoke, and he cursed the day of his birth. He said, "Let the day of my birth be erased, and the night I was conceived, let that day be turned into darkness. Let it be lost even to God on high, and let no light shine on it." So that's Job's woe is me. I wish I'd never been born. This is awful. I can't deal with this. It's just awful.
He was being depressed.
I think he probably did have some depression. I certainly would, and that kind of agony. I might be angry too, and Job doesn't appear to be angry. He's just wishing it would all go away, and it would never have happened at all if he was never born. So let's jump down a little bit to verse 6. Let that night be blotted off the calendar, never again to be counted among the days of the year, never again to appear among the months. So Job doesn't even want a birthday. He wants this. He wants never to have been born, this never to have happened. Let that night be childless. Let it have no joy. Let those who are experts at cursing, whose cursing could rouse Leviathan, curse that day. So
who's Leviathan?
Leviathan, I'm going to explain that. So Job is trying to curse the day of his birth, but he wants someone that's really knowledgeable in cursing, someone that's really good at it, and whose curses could even rouse Leviathan. What is Leviathan? Leviathan is big. What are you saying, Paul? Big? Leviathan is a monster, an animal, something big and ferocious, like a dragon, like a T-Rex, something immense and deadly. And if this person could curse Leviathan and rouse it and control it with a curse, that would be someone that was more knowledgeable than Job at cursing, and he's wanting help from that guy, whoever that is. For failing to, let me go back one. Curse that day for failing to shut my mother's womb, for letting me be born to see all this trouble. Why wasn't I born dead? Why didn't I die as I came from the womb? Why was I laid on my mother's lap? Why did she nurse me at her breasts? Had I died at birth, I would now be at peace. I would be asleep and at rest. Why wasn't I buried like a stillborn child, like a baby who never lived to see the light? Wow. That's an expression of deep anguish. Yet it's not hostile towards others. It is just agonizing, wishing this problem would go away. And short of that, if he had never even been born, then he wouldn't be suffering. What he's not doing is cursing God and dying, and he's not doing anything to kill himself. He's trusting God still at this point, and he just wishes that the situation was different.
You know, Pastor Knapp, this reminds me of the movie Wonderful Life or something, where he, where they stole the money. Jimmy
Stewart,
and he went.
Why was I never born?
Yeah, and
I wish I was never born.
And
yeah,
he went to jump off the bridge, and the guardian angel stopped him.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, it reminds me
Yep.
of that because
That Christmas
he
story
was
is,
wishing he had never been born. He said, "I wish I'd never been born." And the
and
angel said, "Okay, you
and
want to not?"
so he got to see what life would be like. All the people that he had helped in life didn't get the help, and a lot of them died. Why is life given to those who have or with no future? Those God has surrounded with difficulties. I cannot eat for sighing. My groans pour out like water. What I always feared has happened to me. What I dreaded has come true. So Job realized, and remember, we went through all of his cattle and camels and that sheep that he owned and the beautiful big family that he had, and he feared that he might lose that. It's as though he knows he didn't depend on himself for that wealth, he was blessed with it. And so a person that's depending on themselves would just try harder to make more and put their trust in their bank account. Job is trusting in God. And he knew that God's gifts come and go. He knew that God gives us times of pleasantness and times of adversity. And he's going to accept whatever comes from God's hand. He's a man of faith.
Like that.
Now we're going to look at Job 4. When Eliphaz, the first friend of Job, speaks. So the book is arranged in several cycles of speeches. Job has just complained, wishing he had never been born, and now his friend, who sat quiet for 7 days, is going to say something. And we'll see what he says, and if you think he's twisting the knife in Job's wounds. Then Eliphaz the Temanite replied to Job, "Will you be patient and let me say a word? For who could keep from speaking out? In the past, you've encouraged many people. You have strengthened those who were weak. Your words have supported those who were failing. You encourage those with shaky knees. You were that kind of person, Job. Think. But now, when trouble strikes you, you lose heart. You're terrified when it touches you. Doesn't your reverence for God give you confidence?" I think what's going on here is Eliphaz, like everybody else, wants to see the just blessed and the wicked punished, because that is the way it should be in a world that's not broken. And if God is the judge of all the earth, like Abraham said, wouldn't he do what's just? And so we start to think, when we see unfair adversity in people's lives, people we care about, and it's terrible adversity, we begin to doubt God and wonder, does he really care? And so Eliphaz can't quite conceive of a world where such a great guy that would encourage people with shaky knees and say things to uplift them in their time of trouble, why this horrible tragedy would befall Job. So what's the natural assumption? Because God's going to be just. So if Job's suffering, Job must have done something wrong, something we all don't know about.
I don't take it that way, though, because the 6th verse, it says, "Doesn't your reverence for God give you confidence?" He's saying to him, have your reverence for God, and you'll keep your confidence. And
well, in other words, you don't have enough reverence for God, Job. You see that? He's saying, doesn't your reverence for God give you confidence? You're complaining about the day of your birth, wishing it would disappear, and you're not showing reverence for God. If you were, you'd be confident, but right now you're not. So he's trying to make sense of the suffering. But something that Eliphaz and Job and all the other friends of Job and Job's wife didn't know about was there was a conversation in heaven that took place. Right? They didn't know about that. They didn't know that God was giving permission for Satan to treat Job this way. And then the fact that God allowed it shows that God had a lot of confidence in Job. Right? So, Eliphaz here is making the only assumption that's reasonable to someone in our situation. Job must have deserved it somehow. It's true, even Job, we're all sinners, and we all deserve to be separated from God for our sins as punishment. And Job has always been close with God, and God's been right there in his life. Remember, he even offered sacrifices for his kids after their birthday parties, thinking, what if they had a bad attitude in their heart and cursed God? I'm gonna do something to ask God to bless them and forgive them. And so Job's always been that way. And Eliphaz is dumbfounded that this could happen. His only recourse is to assume Job did something to deserve it. He's hidden some sin. He's not confessed it. He's not dealt with it in his heart. And this has finally caught up with him. How many times do we blame the person who's been victimized? Satan attacked Job with God's permission, but Satan killed all of the kids, took all of the properties, and destroyed the health of Job. Satan attacked him, and Eliphaz is blaming the victim. Doesn't your life of integrity give you hope? Look, Job, you've always been a man of integrity. Why are you despairing now? Keep hoping. Stop and think. Ooh, that one I don't like. Stop and think, Job. In other words, I'm so smart, I can see it. Why can't you? Stop and think. Ooh, got a wasp. Stop and think. You're just being dumb. You haven't realized this. There's a solution to your problem. Turn from your sin, and it'll all go away. Stop and think. That's an insult to Job's intelligence, and that's total ignorance in the situation. Stop and think. Do the innocent die? When have the upright been destroyed? You can't be as upright as you think you are, because look at how you've been punished. I find some legalism here. Legalism is a sin we fall into sometimes, where we think more highly of the rules than we do of the love of God. And what generally will happen is we will toot our horn because we obeyed some rule and expect we're going to get blessed for it. And if someone else hasn't obeyed that rule, we sneer, look down our nose, and think, oh, you're a bad person. We set up a ranking system in humanity. Fact of the matter, every human being is made in the image of God. God loves us all. And God has sent his son to die on the cross for sins so that we could be forgiven. If we give up our own efforts to try and make ourselves worthy and throw ourselves on the mercy of God, God's merciful arms will catch us and he'll hold us. And then we feel like, but I didn't do anything for this. We can't. We can't save ourselves. We're not perfect. We're not good enough. Every time we try to do something, we have mixed motives. It's not a good thing. So, stop and think. It's a slap in Job's face. Do the innocent die? When have the upright been destroyed? Is a belief that God is just, but it's a misunderstanding of the nature of sin and man. Eliphaz is saying Job, you're not worthy. You haven't obeyed all the rules. There's something you missed that is causing this. If you'd only obeyed the rules, you would be fine. The law was given for Israel to have a system to worship God and to warn them about the worst kinds of behavior so they would treat each other better. The law was given to help Israel survive the 1,500 years they needed to survive to bring the Savior into the world. It was not given as a means of salvation, and the Jews could never live up to the law. It was impossible for them to do it. The law was meant to show them a need that they had for a Savior to come. The law was given, and the law is a very good thing given by God, but it's certainly insufficient for salvation. It's insufficient for the kind of blessing that Eliphaz is talking about. Job, you haven't obeyed all the rules. You're missing something. Think about that. What is it? I don't know. But you obviously did something wrong. And Job's like, I don't think so. I try hard every day to do the right thing to help others. Not a very helpful piece of advice from Eliphaz. My experience shows that those who plant trouble and cultivate evil will harvest the same. So I can tell you from my experience, Job, that you've somehow done something evil to somebody, and that's why you're reaping this evil today. A breath from God destroys them. They vanish in a blast of his anger. That's what you're getting, Job, a blast of God's anger. You're going to have to straighten out your life and figure it out and get back on the rule-keeping regimen. This truth was given to me. That's another way that our wise counselors try and convince us. Oh, I know. My experience teaches me, and I got a special word from God. Mm-hmm. This truth was given to me in secret, as though whispered in my ear. It came to me in a disturbing vision at night. There was a form before my eyes. In the silence, I heard a voice say, "Can a mortal be innocent before God? Can anyone be pure before the Creator?" So he had some special insight, Eliphaz did. And he's trying to help Job see the error of Job's ways, when, of course, Job was amazing in how he loved God and helped people and so forth. So he's saying, look, I really know this. I got a word from God. There's something you can do here. You know, you can overcome it. Yeah.
Maybe he misunderstood the word that he got from God.
Or he didn't get the word at all.
Can a mortal be innocent before God? Can anyone be pure before the Creator? Well, we know we can't, because Jesus came.
Right. We can eventually be restored to perfection through Jesus, right? When the Lord comes and we get our...
But he's saying, can
right.
a mortal...
So I think there's three possibilities. God did whisper in his ear the idea that nobody's perfect.
And he misunderstood it.
or well, Jesus is perfect, but Jesus wasn't born yet. Okay. Or no one whispered in his ear. He's just tooting his own horn. And, you know, some people that say, oh, God told me to tell you this. Yeah, I'm not so sure. Right? And the third thing would be that an evil spirit came and told him that. There's three possibilities. He's claiming to have had some special insight from the spiritual realm. Whether he's true or not, we don't know if it was a good spirit or an evil spirit.
Can an evil spirit come and tell you something?
I think a legalist could be duped by an evil spirit and get a strong sense of confidence that your problem is this, right? So it's possible, right? Because I'm seeing a lot of legalism in Eliphaz here. He's made it a calculation. If you do A, B, C, and D, then E, F, G, and H is going to happen. But Job, it didn't for you. So you haven't done A, B, C, and D, and E, right? You haven't done it. And I've got this figured out, and I got to whisper in my ear that I'm right. So let's just twist that knife in poor Job's womb. Well, how about that? And then he goes on longer, Eliphaz, chapter 5. Cry for help, but will anyone answer you? Which of the angels will help you? Surely resentment destroys the fool, and jealousy kills the simple. Job, you're being petty here. Come on. You resent God, you're going to be destroyed by that. Quit your complaining. I mean, what are you complaining about? God's good. And you're jealous of people that don't have your sore boils. You know, that jealousy is going to undermine your spirit, Job. You got to figure that out. You got to be a better person, like me. I have seen that fools may be successful for a moment, but then comes sudden disaster. Job, all of your success, all those cattle and camels and everything that you owned and that big family of yours, that was success. But it was only for a moment, which suggests, of course, that since the disaster has come, you're a fool. Fools can be successful for a little while, but it caught up with you, Job. If I were you, I would go to God and present my case to him. You don't see me sitting in sackcloth and ashes. You don't see me with sore boils all over. Here's how I'd do it. I'd just go up, God, see how great I am? And this little problem I've got, you know, I don't deserve it. So I would present my case before God. He does great things too marvelous to understand. Now, that's a statement that's true that Eliphaz doesn't really believe. God does great and marvelous things that we can't understand. And he's actually doing a great and marvelous thing here. But we can't understand it. We can't understand with that conversation that took place in heaven that God is proving Satan wrong, and God is lifting up Job to show that Satan is really incapable of destroying a relationship with God. If you have a relationship with God, you're protected, you're safe, you're with him. And so as much as Job suffered, it speaks to us several things. One, God sees Job as a worthy man. Two, Job shows his integrity does pay off in the end. Three, Satan is an evil enemy who just wants to take our blessings from God away. And four, no one really knows what goes on in heaven, in God's mind, in something like this. His ways are mysterious. And we're called upon to have some faith that when we're going through some adversity, it is from the hand of God, something that we can handle. And he provides with it the way out, the way of escape. No temptation has overtaken you, but such as is common to man. And God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able, but with the temptation will provide the way of escape also, that you may be able to endure it. 1 Corinthians 10.
maybe that part where he says, if I were you, I would go to God and present my case to him. Maybe he's saying, talk to God more about what's going on and ask him to help you, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and that would be a bad assumption that Job's not talking enough to God, right? Because Job had a great relationship with God. Job sacrificed for his kids and prayed for them. Job talked to God a lot.
I think that more of an aspect that Pastor's trying to get to is how us as people,
Closer to the microphone.
I think it can hear me. But how us as people, we like to state, as Pastor said earlier, God told me this, or God told me that, or I had a dream about this, and we sometimes will put ourselves over somebody else, or we'll put ourselves over a situation, and we won't know anything about the situation.
Yeah.
And
Well, we talk like we do.
And we talk like we do, and we act like we do, and we talk about other people the way that we do, and we do all this other stuff, and we put it about us. And Job, even though it was all about him because he had boils from his head to his toe, he still wouldn't curse God and die. So, but it's the same. But people came to him and said, "Hey, you're wrong. Hey, you're wrong." And no, he wasn't wrong, because the people didn't know that God had a conversation with the devil in heaven. A lot of times, we have to be careful putting our mouth into things
Exactly.
that shouldn't be there, and we should just comfort people sometimes and listen, because his buddy listened to him for quite a while, and it was stating that we sometimes need to listen to folks. And
I'm not sure that Eliphaz listened all that much.
well, yeah, but he still had his opinion when he got done listening, because he was trying to figure out how to get what he wanted to say out.
Yeah, Job was telling him how horribly hurt he was.
Right.
And Eliphaz stuck the knife in and twisted it.
Exactly.
But maybe he was saying, go talk to God more. Because with me, with my cancer, I went to God and I said, please, God, heal me.
Yeah.
I talked
But I'm sure Job did that every day with God. And I'm not going to make the assumption that he needs to pray more. Job probably prays more than me. So who am I to say to Job, you got to pray more? I bet you Job talked more to God than Eliphaz talked to God. Right?
And we wouldn't say to
now,
you either,
let me say this, because this is kind of an important practical thing for life. We don't know what's going on in other people's minds, right? And we quickly form a judgment based on what we see on the outside, not knowing what's really going on in their mind or on the inside. And so
unless they speak it and tell you.
Well, yeah, but even if someone tells you how they feel, you don't know how much of that they were able to express. Maybe they only gave you a little sliver of what they're going through. What I'm saying is we have to form judgments about people. All we can go on is what we see and hear. We can't get inside their mind. So we have a choice. We're going to assume the worst, that these people are awful and we know better, or we're going to assume the best and think, boy, I just don't know how to help this guy, but I really love him and I want to help him. And I'm going to assume that he's got a good reason for what he's saying. So Job said a lot of things, but he may not have fully expressed all of his stuff. And so we are very quick to jump to judgment, and we usually go to the worst case rather than the best case, right?
So we should say to him, I'll pray for you more, or something like that.
That would be good. Like for instance, if you're in a church and a guy comes on a Sunday morning and he looks shady and he's looking around and he looks like he's casing the joint, and you're wondering if he's going to come back later and steal something, why? Why would you think that? Only because you saw him doing something weird. But what if he had a completely different idea? It's like, wow, this is a cool place. I might want to be a part of this church, right? So now if you jump to the good impression, he might come and steal. right? And then you gave him too much trust and he hurt you. But if you jump to the bad impression, he might be a great guy and you just lost him because you chased him away. So what should a Christian do? Should a Christian assume the worst, assume the best, or assume the best with an understanding that we're all sinners and you got to be careful with, be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove, right? Jesus addressed this. But the problem of getting into someone's mind and making a judgment like you know what's going on in their heart, you don't. You really, really don't. Eliphaz did not accurately judge Job.
He might have had good intentions.
I think he was trying to be a friend and
Yeah.
solve Job's problem. And he just assumed that the problem was Job and not Satan talking to God about Job.
Right. I think a lot of times, too, we put our foot where it doesn't always belong.
Mark Twain said, if we were supposed to talk more than we listen, God would have given us 2 mouths and 1 ear. Right? Right. So, the fact is, verse 9, he does great things, too marvelous to understand. So don't pretend that you understand. So Eliphaz is trying to say, I understand this, but you don't. It's too marvelous. So he not helpful. If your friend's hurting like Job's hurting, and you sit with him for 7 days, good on you. When you open your mouth, try to validate him. Try to offer something comforting. Don't stand up on your high horse and say, I know better than you, Job. And here's the answer. It's whispered in my ear. You got to repent. You got some unconfessed sin in your life.
So he should have said to him,
I'm sorry?
He should have said to him, I'll pray for you more.
That would have been a nice thing to say. I'll pray for you, Job. I'm here with you. Is there any way I can help? I mean, I would love to get you some medicine for those boils or whatever. Try and help rather than make a judgment that the person's wrong.
That's the way my husband, he wants to help people.
Yeah.
Every time he sees something, he wants, and I'll say, it drives me crazy sometimes, but he wants to go help him.
Yeah. Yeah. Gary has a very helpful nature. And on the outside, it doesn't always seem that way, right? So some people don't like him because they've made a judgment on the negative side. Yep.
But he's really just, today he went up and asked a lady up the street, you want me to mow your yard? And she said, that black lady. And she said, they'll let him know in a couple of days. I said, don't go back and do it till they let you know.
Yeah, right.
Right.
All right, let's move on.
Oh,
Hey, it's James. Come on in, James. We have studied life and found all this to be true. Okay. Found this to be true. Listen to my counsel and apply it to yourself. Whoa, seriously? We have studied life and found this to be true. What I'm telling you is just straight up truth, Job. If you would listen to me and take it seriously, you'd get healthy and have your stuff back. What an arrogant thing to say. I'm sorry, Eliphaz. I'm sure you tried, but you didn't understand. So let's go to chapter 6. Then Job spoke again. This is how the book goes. Job says something, one of his friends jumps in, and then Job has to respond to that. That happens several times throughout the book. If my misery could be weighed and my troubles be put on the scales, they would outweigh all the sands of the sea. That's a poetic description of it's unimaginably difficult what I'm going through. That's what he's saying. That is why I spoke impulsively. So Job is humble. His friend just stuck the knife in and turned it. And Job is now explaining so that he can preserve the relationship. Some people would have said, Eliphaz, get the heck out of here. I don't want to hear from you again. You're just a fool. But he said, I'm telling you why I spoke. Uh-oh. Here, I'll get it. I'll get it. Yeah. Be careful of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll make a huge noise. People at home will hear it and go. All right, we got our microphone set back up. Job wants his friends to stay his friends, even though they weren't very helpful here. So that I'm explaining why I spoke so impulsively. I'm explaining that I'm in such agony, I can't even hardly imagine it. So please cut me some slack. For the Almighty has struck me down with his arrows, which is kind of true. We saw where God brought up Job to Satan. And then in the second meeting, God said, although you incited me against him, so this adversity is from God. Even though we can blame Satan, God has got Satan on puppet strings. And Satan's not going to outfox God at all. God is many steps ahead. And so God's got a good purpose for what's going on here. We may not fully understand it. But Job is correct. God did this to him. Their poison, the arrows they shot at me are poison arrows, infects my spirit. God's terrors are lined up against me. So it's as though God is shooting poison arrows at Job that's bringing him down into depression. It's bringing him down into anxiety and fear. Verse 5, don't I have a right to complain? This is bad. I'm glad you're not going through what I'm going through. I have to complain. It's like all I can do is to try and express how I feel.
You know something
Yeah.
too, though. Nobody likes it when we complain. Nobody wants to hear when we have something to complain about.
That's true.
Suck it up, Buttercup.
Yeah, that's what they'll tell us.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
when we're going through something and we say, "Oh, we had a bad day," nobody wants to hear it.
Right.
We should be able to complain to each other, share how we're feeling. We don't sometimes want to. We're afraid maybe we'll become off as a complainer. I don't think Job's a complainer, even though he's complaining. He's got something to complain about.
He's got a good reason.
Yeah, he's got something to complain about. This seems very unfair. He doesn't know what's going on in heaven, but he knows somehow God did this. Don't I have a right to complain? Let's move on. Oh, that I might have my request, that God would grant my desire. Job wants God to kill him, get him out of his misery. I wish he would crush me. I wish he would reach out his hand and kill me. At least, excuse me, at least I can take comfort in this. Despite the pain, I have not denied the words of the Holy One. So, Job is still holding true. I know God is just. I know there is a solution to a reason for what's going on. I don't know what it is, but I am not going to go against God here because he is good. And he struck me with his arrows and he's got a reason to do it. Have you ever read the Chronicles of Narnia?
Watch the movie.
I watched
When-
part of the movie.
When the horse and his boy, the horse and his boy is the one I'm referring to. When the horse meets Aslan, Aslan is the Christ figure, the lion.
Mhm.
The horse says, wow, you're so beautiful. I love you. If you want, you can eat me. You can just devour me because you're so wonderful. Whatever you want is better than what I want. You know, so Job's kind of like that. Job's like, I'm going to accept adversity if that comes from God's hand because it's better than something from my own hand. At least I can take comfort in this. Despite the pain, I have not denied the words of the Holy One. But I don't have the strength to endure. I have nothing to live for. It's all gone. And he doesn't have the strength anymore. One should be kind to a fainting friend. Now he's turning on Eliphaz. Friendly, but Eliphaz deserves it. One should be kind to a fainting friend, but you accuse me without any fear of the Almighty? You don't know what's going on inside of me, and you're telling me I'm wrong somehow? You don't know. My brothers, he didn't call them my enemies, he called them my brothers. You have proved as unreliable as a seasonal brook that overflows its banks in the spring. You too have given no help. You have seen my calamity, and you are afraid. But why? Have I ever asked you for a gift? Have I begged you for anything of yours for myself? Have I asked you to rescue me from my enemies or to save me from ruthless people? Teach me, and I will keep quiet. Show me what I have done wrong. Look, I've never come to you for help at all. You're offering this as help. It's not helpful. But you know what? If you know what I did wrong, lay it on the table. Let's get this over with. They have nothing. They just say, oh no, it's something. Got to whisper in my ear. It's something. I don't know what it is, but it's something. Tell me what it is. If you're so wise, help me out. Honest words can be painful, but what do your children amount to?
Criticism.
I'm sorry, I don't know where that came from. Honest words can be painful, but what do your criticisms amount to? Do you think your words are convincing when you disregard my cry of desperation? I'm desperate here. This is awful. I can't endure it 1 minute longer. And you're not helping. You think your words mean something? Your words are doing more harm than good. Look at me. When I lie to your face, stop assuming my guilt, for I have done no wrong. Do you think I am lying? Don't I know the difference between right and wrong? And then chapter 7. Oh God, remember that my life is but a breath, and I will never again feel happiness. So he's talking to God. Would you ever pray a prayer like that? My life is but a breath. It means it's over soon. And I'll never again feel happiness.
He's always depressed.
Yeah.
He's depressed. The story goes on. At the end, Job is restored many times over for what he lost.
This reminds me of the verse in the Bible. Your life is like a vapor.
Yeah.
Your life.
Yeah, that's
because he said my
James
life
4.
is but a breath.
Yeah, James 4 is definitely saying a very similar thing there. Oh God, remember that my life is but a breath, and I will never again feel happiness. Job doesn't know everything either.
No.
Right?
That's how he feels in the moment.
That's how he feels. And what he's saying is not always absolutely true. But that's what That's what he thinks. Later on, when God shows up, Job gets a re-education on God, and it dazzles his brain, and he ends up understanding that he was wrong in some of these things that he had said. I will never again feel happiness. I'm giving up. Your life you gave me is no longer a blessing. I wish it never existed. Say that to God.
Scary.
God gave us life, and it is worth living, and it is a blessing. But we can be pushed to a limit where we don't have our own strength anymore to be able to endure. But to say that God's wrong and shouldn't have done that, and to say that the day that I was born never should have occurred, that's wrong. I mean, it is. It's wrong.
This thought right here just makes me think about like when we open our mouth and how we sometimes think that we're giving encouraging words, and we're not so encouraging ourselves, because we can look at Job's friends, and it's sometimes we have to be careful not to be Job's friends. He was saying, "You ain't my buddies."
Even
I'm
so,
paraphrasing it.
we're always like that. I mean,
Yeah.
what do you say when someone's going through
And
that?
the hard part is the hard part, Pastor John, is like, we know people that they got somewhere because of the bad decisions that they made, and we are trying to help them state, hey, you shouldn't have done this, or you shouldn't have done that, or this or that. But
One of my least favorite words in the English language is should.
Right.
That's putting my authority on you. You should.
Right. Well, the Bible says don't do this. The Bible says don't do that. So, blah. But it's the hard thing is like, when we think that we know something, like what they thought they know, and I can't say I've heard God's voice talk to me, so I'm not going to claim it. But however, there's people who say that, and when I hear them say that, that scares me, because I'm like, oh, how did it? Yeah. But that's a different story.
Honestly, I think a legalist's favorite word is should. That would solve all your problems. You should have done this, or you should have done that, or you shouldn't have done that.
But I should have bought more of that back in the day, and I should have bought that back in the day, and I should have done this. Yeah. I should have done a lot of stuff. Yeah. But anyways,
the thing that gets me is Job's.
But he's still kind to them, though, too.
He's given up. Yeah. I'm past the point I can ever feel happy again. Which is not true.
Well,
God can.
At this point, I think that's what he feels.
Exactly.
And at that point, that's where he's at.
Exactly.
I would feel that way.
And
too.
we start to judge God when we say something like Job just said. I will never be able to feel happy again. You, God, can't even make me feel happy again.
I think of the verse that I put on my door: with all things, God, how does it say that? With all things.
With God, all things are possible. Yeah. Or all things are possible with God. Verse 11, I cannot keep from speaking. I must express my anguish. My bitter soul must complain. He's bottled up. He wants to be able to express it. If we're really down and hurting, we shouldn't be so proud that we would just stifle ourselves. But yet get someone that cares about you and let them know how you feel, and let them try and help you. We got to be humble enough. I think my bed will comfort me, and sleep will ease my misery, but then you shatter me with dreams and terrify me with visions. I can't even get away from it when I'm asleep, because you keep pestering me, God. I hate my life and don't want to go on living. Oh, leave me alone for my few remaining days.
What is he saying in that part where he says the other verse?
What's that?
He's going to die.
No, he said,
which one?
But then you shatter me with dreams and terrify me with visions.
I try to escape my misery by falling asleep, only to go into these horrible dreams that you give me.
So do you think God's giving him horrible dreams?
That's part of the whole thing. God gave him his boils. God gave him all that stuff.
You think it's God, or you think it's the devil doing it?
Yes. Yes to both. Okay. Right?
So God's allowing it.
Right. God brings up Job at the beginning. Have you considered my servant Job? He's a good guy. He turns away from evil. Well, yeah, he does that because you've given him so much good stuff. Take it away and he'll curse you. Satan, do to him whatever you think you can. Just don't kill him.
So
don't hurt him.
The devil is showing him bad dreams and terrifying visions.
Probably nightmares.
Yeah, I think God is doing it through Satan. Right? God is showing Satan he really can't do it. He can create some misery, take away some temporary blessings. There's nothing he can do about eternal life. God is actually lifting up Job's victory here. One day we'll see Job. When we get to glory, we'll see Job, and he'll be amazingly rewarded for his faithful life. I think I hate my life and I don't want to go on living. Oh, leave me alone for my few remaining days. What are people that you should make so much of us, that you should think of us so often? That's an important verse. The fact of it is, and this is what angels long to look, the angels long to see this, is that God loves people. God made people in his image. He didn't make angels in his image. And God is even willing to go to the length of dying, becoming a man and dying for people. So something is going on here in Job's travail, in Job's adversity, that is supposed to help us understand how important people are to God. And Job's like, if we didn't matter to you, there'd be no reason for us to have to go through this.
Do you think the angels get jealous? I mean, maybe not the good angels.
The good angels, no, they're
demons,
servants of God.
But they're so curious, she said,
Yeah, the verse that it says that these are things in which angels long to look, it's like they're amazed that broken, wicked creatures like us, God would love and change our lives and bring us into his family and eventually perfect us.
Maybe the demons are jealous.
I'm sure they are. That's a negative
That's
emotion
why
that
they
I'm
go
sure they
after
have.
us.
I think there's demonic activity going on in between countries that are warring. It's like the demon over this nation doesn't like the demon over that nation, and they're trying to wrestle and get the powers, increase their powers, and it just results in war down here. For you examine us every morning and test us every moment. So Job knows God is looking inside of our hearts and judging whether we're worthy. If our heart is completely his, he strongly supports us. The eyes of the Lord move to and fro throughout the whole earth, that he may strongly support those whose hearts is completely his. Why won't you leave me alone, at least long enough for me to swallow? If I have sinned, what have I done to you, O watcher of all humanity?
That's sad. He couldn't even swallow.
Yeah, I guess.
That's sad.
Yeah. Why make me your target? Am I a burden to you? Why not just forgive my sin and take away my guilt? For soon I will lie down in the dust and die. When you look for me, I will be gone. Wow. Yeah, there's so much here. It just really bothers us that there's so much suffering in the world, because we care about people and animals that are suffering. We don't want to see that. And we think, well, God must have done, if God is powerful, he could stop it. And if God is good, he wouldn't allow it.
Yeah.
So something's wrong with God. And the tendency is to blame God. But
people don't understand, like children that get cancer.
Sure.
They'll say, well, if God is such a good God, why does he allow this? Why does he allow children to get cancer, babies to die?
Right.
Right.
So the answer goes back to Adam and Eve. When they sinned, they were exercising free will to not buy into God's program, to rather go out on their own, right? When Cain built the city, he's figuring on a humanity's program rather than God's program. And the Satan and the fallen angels, they had a chance to opt in to God's program. And when they opted out, that corrupted their nature forever. But humanity can be bought back, right? Humanity can be redeemed. So I would say several things. It's not going to go on forever. The suffering of this world is going to be done, because God wouldn't allow it to go on forever. The suffering of this world is happening because God has allowed us freedom, and we've created the suffering. in the animal realm, the suffering of animals was created by humans. Humans were to take care of the animals. Humans went their own way. It changed the ecosystem. Now the animals have to take care of themselves and eat each other to do it. It's just awful. But God decided it was more important to give humans freedom to love him and to believe and to do human work, rather than just create them as story characters that are just going to do what he's preordained, right? So yes, he does predestine and preordain whatever comes to pass, but he does not override human choice, human freedom. How does a sinner like me ever come to Jesus? I couldn't do it. It's a miracle. God did that miracle to help me want to be a Christian, right? And
well, my mother helped me because she kept talking.
You
to
could
me.
just as easily have said no, right? You could have gone your own way. And even when you do you walk down the Christian path, you step off from time to time. So if it went on too long, I would say that was not a good idea that God had to allow the world to fall. But it's not going to go on too long. It's going to go on the right amount of time. I don't know what that is. If it was if it wasn't man's fault for having freedom, I would say it was wrong for God to do that, right? If God made it to happen, if he foreordained the evil, he would be the author of sin. But God created the world with the possibility of going the wrong way. And if he did go the wrong way, he had a plan to redeem his people and the world by sending his son. Now, if man opted in to God's program at the beginning, we would never have known God would be willing to become a man and suffer death for us. So the fact that there's some suffering actually brings about a good. It brings about a glory that we get to participate in God, who loves us to such a degree that he would take on the burden of suffering for us to free us from eternal separation from him. So now some people say, well, it's not worth it. Well, I will let God decide if it's worth it or not.
Since I've been coming here to this church, you have taught me. My other former church never taught me. I mean, they taught me a lot of stuff, but they never really taught me how, Adam and Eve, they chose the wrong way,
Mm-hmm.
and you have taught me, that I don't know how to explain it, but.
Well, thank you. I'll give God the credit for that. He made me this quirky guy that I'm a Bible nerd, and that's just the way it's going to be.
Well, that they chose their own way instead of following God's way. And they never really, they told us Adam and Eve they did wrong. But I don't remember them ever really explaining that they chose to go their own way instead of